Assalamu alaikum. How are you? When you are at school or college, you can choose subjects of your own choice. You can do whatever you want, whatever you like. You can take part in extracurricular activities and games, sports, etc. But it all depends on your choice, what you like and what you don't like. But at workplace, to be a very successful employee, you have to do a lot of things. Sometime which interest you and sometime they just have to be done because the job demands it. Similarly, if you at school or college, you talk to your friends, you talk to your teachers, you talk to the management. Whenever you have a problem, you can go to the person, you can approach the person and talk to you. At workplace, similarly, if you have any problem, if you want to discuss anything, you go to the person or you go to those people and exchange information, receive messages, give them messages. It's a face-to-face conversation and you do not need any sort of preparation. But during your working life as executive or working at any post, sometimes you have to talk to people that is different from a face-to-face meeting. For a face-to-face meeting, you do not need to make any special preparation. You have any message and you go to the person and just talk to him or her. Or people come to you and exchange views. You have some information, some data, and this information and data is exchanged. This exchange of information takes place within a formal as well as in some instances an informal situation. But at workplace, at certain occasions, you have to talk to people which is different from this face-to-face meeting. You have to sometime inform others about something, about any policy change, about some procedure, about your planning, or you have some announcements to make. So you want to inform people. Similarly, at certain occasions, you have to persuade people. You want to bring them round to your view of thinking. Sometimes you need to motivate people, your workforce. And similarly, sometimes you want to entertain people. I mean, in an informal gathering, you simply want to entertain people. So there can be a lot of reasons. So when you have to inform people of something particular, which is different from a face-to-face meeting, sometimes you have to persuade people in a different way. I mean, you have to persuade people to people of certain number. And similarly, sometimes you have to motivate people or to entertain people. And all this information, this motivation, this persuasion, and this entertainment is different from that you do in a face-to-face meeting in a very casual manner. Why it's different? Because this type of information, this type of exchange of information needs preparation on your part. For example, you want to discuss some policy change. You want to introduce some new procedure. You want to welcome new employees of your organization, your company. There is some annual get-together, some meeting and you have to talk to the people, to your peers, to your superiors, to your subordinates, in some cases to your customers. So when you are concerned with this type of exchange of ideas, you are actually in a particular type of communication which we call oral communication. So this oral communication is normally discussed as oral presentation. We can define, as I just give a few examples about this, we can define this oral presentation. This action of communication in which one speaker is doing most of the sending and a number of listeners are doing most of the receiving is known as oral presentation. So you see that it's different from your face-to-face meeting. I mean, that takes place in a very casual, informal manner. In this type of oral communication, you are the sender of the message, and some people, maybe it varies, the number of people varies from a small group to a larger group, are the receiver of the message or the listener. So when this situation takes place, you have to be careful because you are engaged in oral presentation. Remember that a lot of people give presentations in their working life. They give presentation, they have to, because as I just said, we use presentation for achieving certain purposes. So when you have to give oral presentation, you have to take care of a lot of things. When you're writing a letter, you, by now I'm sure, you must be very well convinced that you need to work out. You need to do a lot of exercise. You have to think of your message, etc., your planning steps, your organizational plan, whatever it is. Remember that this type of oral communication creates mutual understanding between you as a speaker and your listener as an audience. And this is different from the casual conversation. This requires the same amount of preparation that is required to write any message. Rather, to some extent, here you need to make more preparation. You have to take care of a lot of things. You have to go through the writing process and as well as the oral process, the aspect of oral communication that you have to take care of. So oral presentation is different from casual conversation. So to make your presentation effective, you need to undergo at least 3 steps: planning your oral presentation, writing your oral presentation, completing your oral presentation. You see that the steps that I have just given are quite similar to the writing process. So in one way, oral presentation is like writing any message. The way you tailor your message according to your purpose, according to your audience's need, and so on. Similarly, you tailor your oral presentation according to your purpose, according to your needs. So planning oral presentation is much like planning any other business message. It requires analyzing your purpose, your audience, investigating necessary information, and adapting your message to the occasion and your audience, so that you make very good oral presentation. You have to keep in mind that when you are going for these oral presentation, certain things should be in your mind: your purpose, your audience, the information that you are going to impart, and how you are going to give your message to your audience, and what is the occasion on which you are going to give your message. Out of all these things, the most important element is the audience, because you have, obviously, at the first place is the purpose, because without purpose you cannot make any presentation. But here you have to tailor your message according to your audience. So audience is very important. When we are talking in a casual manner, we don't care. We just sometime go off the road. We exchange different information in one subject. Sometimes we bring some humorous thing into a conversation to just minimize its serious effect. But the presentation is very different from it. Though we do use these things, these ingredients to make our presentations interesting, very interesting and listenable, but the most important thing is that we have to take care of the audience. It is seen that a lot of people with a very concrete purpose come before an audience and they fail to achieve their purpose because they fail to understand, in fact, this important element, that is audience. So you will see that we will discuss in detail about understanding your audience, because as I just said, oral presentation is a mutual understanding between the speaker and the listener. So your listener is your audience. You have to take care. As I just said, that we talk in presentation for certain reason, and these reason or these purposes at least can be four. I have just named them. I name them again. Number one is to inform. We want to inform. So the way in this lecture I am trying to inform you. The way a teacher informs of a subject to his class. The way you inform your employees of the new procedure. The way you make some new announcements. So this is to inform some listeners, some audience. Then comes the other purpose of your presentation can be to persuade. You want to bring people to your way of thinking. I mean, here when you are doing this persuasion, it is the same persuasion that we talked about in sales letter, or we talk about in all the persuasive communication. Here you want to arouse the attention of the listener, and then by going through different steps, you want to make them to certain action. So you have you make presentation to inform, you make presentation to persuade, and you make presentation to motivate. You want to motivate people. You want to motivate your workforce. So this is a third purpose of a presentation. And then in some cases you want to entertain. Now, though in your working life your main purpose can seldom be to entertain any certain audience, but in some aspect you make your presentation interesting, and this way you keep their attention alive in your presentation. So these can be the four purposes of giving any presentation. Whenever you give any presentation, the most important thing, as I just said, is to determine audience size and the composition. This is very important. To determine the audience size and composition. Estimate how many people are going to be your listener. Try to know about the size of the audience. Try to know about their views. Which type of views do they have? Do they have some political views? Do they have some religious or some professional views? What are their main thinking process? Analyze even the mix of men and women. How many men, how many women are going to be in the audience? Their occupation, their professions, even their geographical regions. So when you have all this mix before you, you can be very confident that who are going to listen to you and what type of people they are. When you know what type of people are going to be your listener, when you know the number of people who are going to be your listener, you can be immensely confident, because if you have not given consideration to this aspect, thinking in your mind of a small group, you go to the hall and you find a lot of people there, it can just shake your confidence. And remember that once the confidence in such presentation is shaken, then it's very difficult to regain the confidence. You become nervous, and the whole presentation, if it is not written word for word, may just slip off from your memory. So be very particular about the audience's size and their composition. Next thing is to predict the audience probable reaction. You have to picture them. The way we've been asking you to picture your reader, the reader of your message. Similarly, you have to think of the people listening to you and what will be their probable reaction. So analyze the audience members who are attending your presentation. Determine the audience general attitude towards the topic. Another important thing, if they are interested, they are uninterested, they are unconcerned, they are open-minded, they are hostile. Maybe in some cases you find an audience in which people are hostile towards your information, towards your message. So just picture in your mind that what will be their probable reaction. Another important point is the mood of the audience. Remember that people driven by their moods. If you have some very serious topic, you will have to think of the mood that the people may be in. In some formal occasion, you can expect the people to be in a very serious mood, but in any informal occasion, obviously they'll be in a different mood. So take care of the mood of your audience. Find out what kind of backup information will most impress the audience. Technical data, historical information, financial data, demonstration, samples, etc., etc. This is very important. So knowing about all these things is very important. Next to it, about knowing your audience, is to gauge the audience level of understanding. What is their level of understanding? Obviously, if you are talking to college students, university students, their level of understanding is different. If you are talking to the technical people, their level of understanding about a certain topic is different. If you are talking to your peers, their level of understanding is different. If you are talking to the new employees of your organization, their level of understanding is different. So determine what the audience already knows about the subject. Obviously, if you have started something, they already know, they'll very soon fall into boredom. So decide what background information the audience will need to better understand the subject. Consider whether the audience is familiar with your vocabulary. In our daily life, at workplace, we normally use different words which are not understood easily by some audience not familiar with our environment of the organization. So be very careful and concerned about these things, about the level of understanding of your presentation. So think about the mix of general concept and specific details you will need to present. Think about your audience. The success of your presentation depends on your knowing your audience, their probable reaction, their level of understanding, their size, their composition. You can't imagine that how successful your oral presentation can be if you think of all these points when you are going to give presentation. People I've seen that people are frightened of giving presentation to audiences which they are not aware of. And there are a lot of stories and books of communication and many journals over this topic, in which many presenters have narrated their incidences in which they, not considering the importance of audience, made a lot of mistakes, and in many cases they just had to flee. So this is a very important. After you have considered these two things, first your purpose and then your audience, you come on to the main step, and that is the writing oral presentation. So writing oral presentation is similar to any writing business message or business report, etc., because you have to brainstorm, you have to think of the idea, you have to think of the information that is related to your topic, that concern your main purpose. So you can think of writing your main oral presentation. So it can be the main points, that how you are going to talk to your audience, how they are going to benefit from your message. You may like to convince audience that reorganizing the data processing department will improve customer service and reduce employee turnover. You may have the main idea to convince audience that we should build a new plant in Lahore to eliminate manufacturing bottlenecks and improve production quality. You may have the main idea to address audience regarding a new employee healthcare plan. So there can be a lot of ideas which serve as main ideas. The thing is that you must make a brainstorming. You have to see which ideas are relevant to your main idea and which are not relevant. The way you write a letter, so you can jot down in the shape of notes, in the shape of bulleted notes, etc., and then you can reread it, which are workable and which are not. So this is how you can gather information about your main idea, the supporting facts, and all those things which are necessary to your main idea. So the very first step in the writing process is to define your main idea and make it clear, make it different from irrelevant information or irrelevant things. After you have defined your main idea, the next thing is that you have to limit your scope. Remember that effective presentation focuses on audience's need, but also tailor messages to the time allowed. So audience's need is important, but time is important as well. So limit your scope. Think that whether your presentation is a 10-minute presentation or an hour presentation. You know that an average speaker can deliver almost 125 to 150 words per minute. So they can be 750,000 words to 9,000 words per hour. And this 125 to 150 words are equivalent to one paragraph. So think of the time allotted to you. Is it a 10-minute presentation or is it a 1 hour presentation? You have to, for example, let's suppose it's a 10-minute presentation. 1 minute goes for introduction and 1 minute goes for conclusion. The rest of the 8 minutes are to be given to points. So you have to take at least 4 points and each point takes 2 minutes at least. We are talking about presentation very calculatively. Why we are talking about? Because we want presentation to be that precise as we've been talking about letters. So if you make all this preparation, you have gone through the whole process the way we are talking about, surely you will be knowing that your each point takes 2 minutes, your introduction takes 1 minute, and your conclusion takes 1 minute. You will be very confident about all these things. Every word that you speak will be known to you. So when you know that your time limit, you limit your scope and you write down your presentation in such a way that fits into your time slot. So if your presentation is an hour, you can go with this. So maybe your first 5 minutes go for introduction, 5 to 10 minutes go for introduction, and the last 5 to 10 minutes go for conclusion, and in between you are discussing different points. So when you have defined your main points, you know that which point comes in which order and what time is to be spent to each point, what information you have to pass to the audience about each point. So the next thing after defining your main idea is to limit your scope. Think of the time allotted to you, because you are not given a lot of time. In an oral presentation, you are given some limited time. You are told beforehand that you have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, depending on the purpose that you have to achieve, or depending on the function that you are going to perform. Next thing to it is to choose your approach. Choosing approach like that of choosing an approach in writing any message. With a well-defined idea, you begin to arrange your message. When your ideas are defined, you can arrange your message in a very perfect manner. So choose your approach. Structure a short oral presentation like a letter or a memo. They are almost similar. Obviously, you will be using the same organizational plan. We will be talking about these organizational plan. Organize long speeches or a presentation like formal report. For short presentation, you will be, as I just said, they are like letters or memo. You will be using, in most of the cases, the direct plan. For long presentation, if purpose is to entertain, motivate, or to inform, use direct order and a structure imposed naturally by the subject. Begin with importance, then comes sequence or chronology, spatial orientation, geography, or etc. If your purpose is to analyze, persuade, or collaborate, organize your material around conclusion and recommendation, or around a logical argumentation. So this is what you do when you are dealing with it. With long presentation, you keeping in your purpose in your mind, either using direct plan or using indirect plan. If you are using direct order, your audience in that case is receptive, or that the audience must be receptive. When you expect that there can be any sort of resistance, then you must use indirect plan. I mean, here again, you have to think all those points that we've been discussing, when to choose a direct approach and when to choose an indirect approach. Regardless of the length of your presentation, bear in mind that the simplicity of organization is valuable in your oral presentation, since you are going to convey something to your audience. So if you are simple, if you give them some information in a very simple manner, they'll be interested and attentive. They'll listen to you, what you are talking about. So your simple order, simple style is very important. So next to it is outlining, that how you can outline your presentation. A careful prepared outline can be more than just starting points for composing a speech or presentation. You can write sentences or you can write phrases in the shape of notes that can help you. If you are going to include any sort of visual aids into your presentation, you must make certain cues for it, write certain notes into your presentation, that where you have to include those visuals and where you don't have to use them. So making an outline line of the presentation is very important. Decide on the style, which style you are going to adopt. Choose your style to fit the occasion, your audience, your size, your subject and your purpose. It means that you have to choose your style according to your audience and your occasion, obviously your purpose. Decide on an appropriate style on these bases. Use a casual style for small group. Use a formal style for large groups and important events. Obviously, when you know that you are talking to few people, you will be using an informal style. And when you know that you are talking to a lot of people, you will be using formal style. In both formal and informal presentation, keep things simple. That is the main important thing. Your style may be formal or informal, but things are very simple. When things are simple, when you are describing your ideas in a simple manner, people are going to listen to you. And when they will find simplicity, they'll be readily listening to you. Their attention will be more towards you. So after deciding on an appropriate style, develop your oral presentation. How formal presentations differ from formal reports? As I just said, that organize your longer presentation like formal reports, but they're not similar. There is certainly a difference between the two, and difference is that formal presentation are more interactive with the audience. Obviously, in formal reports, you are not interactive with the audience. Here you are more interactive. You can establish a rapport with your audience. So in this way, you become interactive. You use more non-verbal cues. That's the thing that makes it different from formal report. Non-verbal cues are very important to get your message across. Can you imagine a person talking to people without making any non-verbal cues? Non-verbal cues in a long presentation can help message get across. So as a speaker of a formal presentation, you have to think of these non-verbal cues, your gestures, your facial expression, your eye contact, the way you are standing, all these things. So this is how it is different. Another difference is that in formal presentation, we have less control of contents. I mean, in a formal report, the contents are very strictly controlled, but in a formal presentation, the control is not that much. Another thing is, in formal presentation, there is greater need to help the audience stay on track. So to help the audience stay on track, you need to all these things. You need to make your presentation very interesting, and to make your presentation interesting, informative, you have to think of the ideas. You have to think of all the steps that we've been talking about. You have to write your presentation very effectively. You tailor your presentation in a manner that suits the purpose, that suits the occasion, that suits the audience. So these are few differences between a formal presentation and a formal report. Otherwise, they are similar. And the most important thing, or the main similarity between the two, is that they need to be worked out in the same way. They need to be spent time similarly. So far as the homework is concerned, they are quite equal. Then comes the introduction. Introduction, obviously we talk about the introduction of the formal report. So introduction must capture, the introduction of the formal presentation must capture the attention. The way we write persuasive messages, in which we start in such a way that capture the attention of the reader. So your formal presentation must capture the attention of the reader, and it should also inspire confidence and preview the contents. So 3 things to do: capture the attention, inspire the reader, and preview the contents. So this is the way you start your presentation, you introduce your topic. So match the introduction of your presentation to the tone of your presentation. I mean, the way you introduce should have some linkage with your tone. Then comes the body. After introduction, like a letter, comes the body. Here you are going to discuss the main points of your presentation. Remember that you have to limit the body to 3 or 4 main points. Too many main points taken in one presentation can create confusion in the minds of the reader, and not only in the minds of the reader, sometimes they get mixed up in your own mind. I said sometime. So help your audience follow your presentation by using clear transitions between sentences and paragraphs. These transitions are very helpful. The way you bring coherence in your written assignments, similarly you use these transitions to bring coherence, a logical order into your presentation. So if you do not use these transitions, by transition I must make clear, by transition we mean certain words like however, consequently, afterwards, so on, these connectives. So these are called transition. These can be very helpful. These basically link what has gone past and what is coming next. So remember that by bringing these, you are helping your audience to follow your point. Emphasize your transition by repeating key ideas. Since you want to impart some message, some information, so by repetition you can learn your audience what you are talking about. In a piece of paper or in a letter or in a memo, the facility of rereading is there, but in an oral presentation this facility is not available. So it's better that you must repeat your key ideas. Remember that normally when we are teaching, we repeat certain main things. The basic purpose is to ensure these main ideas that they are well understood by the listener. So that's why you must have noticed that teachers repeat things. So similar exercises required during a presentation so that the listener of your presentation learn what you are talking about. Using gestures, changing your tone of voice, or introducing visual aids can be very helpful. You don't have to use a monotone, I mean just one tone, as if you are reading some newspaper or reading from notes. Even if you are reading from notes, because a presentation can be different types, we will be discussing later on. Even if you are reading notes, you have to bring your emotion into it. You have to pass your emotion on to your audience. You don't have to read all the information on a single tone. So keep changing the tone of your voice, and if you are using visual aids, it can be very helpful, because in visual aids we can impart a lot of information which may requires much time and much talking. Visual aids can be very helpful, so learning how to use this visual aids is very important, and all the presenters should be well versed with using these visual aids. Next thing is that you have to take care during your presentation is holding your audience's attention. So relate your subject to your audience's need. This is important. So that's why they'll be interested. If there is no relationship between what you are saying and what their needs are. When we say needs mean to have information about a certain things, especially in a professional context. You're talking to your superior, and the need of your superior is to know about something that you are talking to. So you have to relate your subject to the needs of your audiences, and then anticipate your audience's questions. An intelligent presentation always has this aspect, and an intelligent presenter always think of the probable question, like the probable reaction. This is one part of the reaction. When you're talking about, you know that what type of question you may be put up when you have finished your presentation. So as a good presenter, you have to think of these questions, and you have to answer these questions in your presentation. So the moment a question is arising in one's mind, he is getting answer to the question. So this is the quality of a good presenter, that he always anticipate audience's question and answer those questions in his presentation. Use clear, vivid language. Vivid and clear, they are the same words. This is very important. As I just said that your presentation should be simple. The simplicity of your presentation is the hallmark of your presentation. The word that you use must be familiar. We've been talking too much about this aspect, that you have to use a certain level of your language. And if you are not aware of this, if you do not take care of this, your message may fail to achieve its purpose. So use the language that is clear, understandable. You must know, if you have done all the homework of knowing your audience, you must be knowing the composition of your audience, the knowledge of your audience, their professional expertise, etc. So when you know all these things, you will be using language appropriate to your audience's understanding. Explain the relationship between your subject and familiar ideas. I mean, the ideas they are familiar with. So they could have a relationship of the two, and this will help them in understanding your presentation. When you come to the close of your presentation, always close with a strong and lasting impression. This is very important. Closing your presentation is very important. So take care of few things when you are closing your presentation. Restate your main point, summarize the main ideas. At the end of your presentation, it's better that you simply pick up main points and restate them, all these points. Increase the overall level of comprehension, because when the points are restated, they increase the overall comprehension of your audience. If they have missed something, if they have not been able to understand in the first place, when you restate them, they are easily understanding it. Make your final words memorable. As I just said, that you have to leave a lasting impression at the end of your presentation. So the last words that you speak must be memorable. You must leave an everlasting impression about your topic that you have talked about. So this is how the body of the presentation goes, the main presentation. This this process is done in the planning stage. During the planning stage, first you do your homework, you think of the ideas, main ideas, the supporting details, you think of your style, you make an outline, you think of an introduction, you jot down the main points, and then writing this, the supporting details, and you think of the closing. So this is how a presentation goes. This was the basic structure of a presentation. But when you have made this structure, you are required to do a lot of other things. You have to edit your presentation for clarity. Beside this, there are certain other aspects regarding this presentation. The topic of the presentation is not yet over, because we can have different types of presentation. Sometimes you see that you simply read it from notes. Sometimes it's just extemporaneous. Sometimes it's impromptu. So what are these types of presentation? These are basically types of delivery of an oral presentation, and they need to be discussed. So in the next lecture, we'll be discussing these aspect of presentation, the further aspect of presentation, how we can take care of other aspects. For example, we stress that for a presentation we need to rehearse, we need to know about certain non-verbal cues, etc., etc. There are a lot more to come. We'll be talking. So far as today's topic is concerned, we have talked about presentation, oral presentation. Oral presentation is different from an oral conversation, and in which we just talk to people in a casual manner. But when we say oral presentation, we are particularly concerned about a certain type of communication in which there is one person sending the message, and in which there are more than one persons receiving the message. So this type of a process of communication is known as oral presentation. And as you have just seen, that it has certain purpose to achieve, of informing, of persuading, of motivating, etc., etc. And the way this presentation is prepared, we have talked about the steps of presentation. In the next lecture, we will talk about the rest of this topic. We hope that you must have learnt about making a presentation, an oral presentation. Oral presentation may be an integral part of your responsibilities. So you must learn how to give oral presentation. So we finish our lecture today with this, and we'll see you in the next lecture. Until then, Khuda Hafiz.